been experiencing flash floods that have so far claimed the lives of people, and even as that particular incident in Naivasha, as Willie Dennis was telling us. And this particular, on today's first aid segment, Andrew Wanjohi from St. John Ambulance joins us, just basically describing the best safety practices to avoid when it comes to drowning. Wanjohi, we've been seeing this over the recent times, the whole of last week, different parts of the country, and particularly the bone for this conversation today, when it comes to matters flash flooding. We've seen different videos, people taking either on rivers, either just on a road that was in other days, on a dry day, would be really passable, but then you'd actually drown in that road. So we'd really want, you giving us the best practices when it comes to how do we avoid this. First of all, introductions.
Thank you very much. My name is Andrew Wanjohi from St. John Ambulance. I'm a first aid instructor, emergency responder. And yes, basically, recently we've been looking at flash floods. We've been looking at flooding, basically. And in terms of when it comes to first aid, when it comes to safety and emergency response, what we look at is the safety of human beings first. We want to take care of ourselves as individuals, and then want to take care of our friends, our families, and such. And then now comes the property and such things.
Okay.
So when it comes to water incidents, safety is a key aspect, and especially for recently, because of the kind of flooding that we've been having, people get a bit confused and get a bit worked up and hysterical, and I can understand that. I'm sure everyone, even you and me, we have all experienced that kind of thing. So for us, we try to ensure and encourage people to keep calm and ensure that if you experience such a situation, think about keeping yourself safe first. Okay, keeping yourself safe, and then now keeping others safe, because when you are safe, you're able to take care of others.
Right.
Yes.
It would be prudent enough to also allow what we want to watch Nyumbani or wherever they're watching us from to also be part of this conversation.
Yes, yes.
The many questions they have.
Yes.
They've seen these videos as well, and they're wondering, what could I have done? Or someone who's just standing next to a road, on the roadside, and they're looking at someone drowning. What could they have done? 0795 045 864 is the number to call us live. We'll be taking all that, and Wanjohi will be answering all your questions. You probably have opinions or thoughts on this particular bit of topic on matters drowning. You can also tell us. You can also text us on WhatsApp 0793 267 279. We'll be reading all your questions and feedback later on. So first off, because you've really given us a wonderful kind of introduction on the same, but at what point do you know you're actually drowning?
As an individual, at what point would you know that you're drowning?
Yes, I mean, is it the fact that, because let's say you're probably walking on water, or water just, let's say washed your way. At what point do you actually know I'm actually drowning at this point?
The technical definition of drowning is when you inhale a liquid and you're unable to breathe.
Okay.
So the moment you discover that you're unable to breathe, that's when you know you are drowning. Okay. In terms of safety, the moment that you're going into water that is more than 1 foot, 1 foot from the ground, then that is a problem.
So for practical bits, and we'll be doing a lot of practical bits today, as you can see around us here. So I am on the surface of the ground.
Yes.
For example, at this point,
yes.
What's 1 foot?
Kama wewe ni knee length. Ukiingia,
so knee length.
Unaona kama wewe ukivaa gumboot inakufikia wapi?
Inanifikia kama alia.
Ikifunika gumboot unajua iko shida.
Okay.
Yes. There is that should be a cause for concern for you. So we'd like to discourage you from getting into water that is more than that 1 foot high, and if you have to, then it is important that you don't go alone. There is something we call a buddy system. Try and ensure that you have someone who is able to take care of you, who you're able to take care of each other, basically. That's what I mean. So because most of the time maybe you're going into the water because maybe you're trying to rescue someone, and or you need to go across that water because where you are is not safe anymore. So it is for you to assess. First assess the scenario. And if you are going to rescue a person, there is a process that we want to follow. If you want to rescue a person, ensure that as much as possible you stay on dry land. If you're able to. As much as possible, stay on dry land. Or at least where there's no water, there's not much water. And then try to reach the person. If you're able to reach for the person, try to reach from...
With your hand?
Yes, with your hand. If you're able to reach them, try and reach them so that you can pull them out of the water.
Wouldn't that be the struggle? I mean, they're really fighting for their life and all that at this point?
That is why we are saying mkiwa wawili. Wewe uko na mwenzako maybe amekushika. Mwenzako amekushika na wewe ndio unajaribu kufikia the person who is drowning. So you try to reach from the shore. That's the first thing. If you're able to. You know, sometimes it is just a process. It gets worse and worse and worse. So the person you're able to reach from the shore is not that badly off. So you're able to pull them out instead of recording them with your phone. Si ndio unajua shida ya Wakenya kila mtu ni reporter.
Citizen journalism.
So as much as you want to keep a record of everything.
Yes. For the views on TikTok.
Najua kila mtu anataka kuwa influencer. So beyond that, you should be concerned about your fellow human being. First, try to reach from the shore. If you're able to pull them out. Sasa kama mko wawili mnashikana, mtu ameshika hapa kwa waist, mwenye ako nyuma yako na wewe umeshikia the victim, unamvuta. Unamtoa nje. Sawa. If you're unable to pull them out, they are maybe a bit far off. Do you have a stick that you can get? Get a stick, stretch it out. Vuta yeye na hiyo kijiti. Sawa. If they are a bit far off and you have a rope, throw a rope to them. Throw a rope to them. They're able to get a hold of the rope, anajivuta back to safety. Na pia wewe unamvuta back to safety. Sawa. Kama hauna, try and get a flotation device. What do you think would float easily?
What will float easily? Something plastic, something made of plastic?
Yes. Something plastic that is able to support the weight of that human being. Sawa, si kumrushia kikombe itamsaidia. So try and get something plastic. I don't know, maybe wood would be able to float sometimes. So try and get them something we call just a flotation device. Basically, that's something that could float that they can hold on. They can hold on to, and they can try to get themselves to somewhere safe.
Right. Let me have Jonte here, for example. A hypothetical of Jonte. Jonte is going to be our dummy for today. And so Jonte is about, how old? Let's say between 12 to 18 years age there. And because we've seen this a lot on social media, there was a matatu, plying a particular route. And because the driver thought that he can actually bypass that road, as clever as he is, the vehicle also submerged. So we are trying to rescue Jonte, but then he is enclosed in a particular, in a space, but then he's drowning in it. You can't actually reach him out. What do you do?
Like for example, what we've been seeing recently, you find that matatu imeingia kwa maji, they are overconfident about whatever it is that they're doing, and then they fall into a ditch and people are trapped. There's a lot of chaos and such. First of all, we say that keep yourself safe. Try and get to a ground where you're able to, even if it is above the matatu umesema juu ya matatu unaweza kuvuta watu nje. You start with the people who are closest to the exit, the ones who are easiest to get out. Get them out haraka. Alafu ndo sasa unafikia sasa wale wenye wako mbali. One by one, pole. We try to say take it slow, because slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So unatoa one by one. Toa, weka. Toa, weka. The first priority is get them out of the danger area.
Good thing. Now we have Jonte out of the danger area.
Get them out of the danger area.
Show us. So for example, I rescued Jonte out of here. So practically, what do I do? He's really struggling to breathe and all that. So amekunywa maji na hiyo vitu yote.
So Jonte is out of the danger area. Sindio? His clothes are wet and such. Now you should know that wet clothes are still a danger because the wet clothes and the water is still a danger because it's cold. Sina kwa baridi. It's cold. So the cold temperature, inashukishaga temperature, it affects the body temperature. And that now affects things like circulation of blood and such.
Okay, yeah.
And that's something you're trying to avoid. But first, your priority is, of course, breathing.
Yeah.
The casualty has inhaled water and such. So always remember your ABCs. ABCs is airway, breathing, and circulation. Yes. Ensure that the airway is open. Can I show you?
Yeah.
So this is my casualty. I want to open the airway by tilting the head back and lifting the chin. Once I do that, I want to listen for breathing. I do that for up to 10 seconds.
Okay.
Is my casualty breathing? If they're not breathing, I'm going to send someone for help. Niambie, please call me an ambulance and such. Or call me someone who can take this person to a hospital. Right. Once you do that, you're going to try, because they're not breathing, you're going to try and give them 5 rescue breaths. 5 rescue breaths, and then you check. So let me give him 5 breaths. You pinch the nose and blow directly into the mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
As you do this, are you expecting water to be gushing out of the mouth?
Yes. I expect when I'm doing the 5 rescue breaths, if he starts coughing, that's a good sign that the lungs are able to expel the water.
The airway has opened.
Yes. So if you find that he starts to cough, even after the second breath, you don't need to get to 5. Even after the second breath, and he starts to cough, you need to turn him onto his side so that the fluid can drain out. Turn him onto his side, observe if the fluid is draining out. Once it drains out, keep monitoring pulse and such. That's all. But if after 5 breaths there's still no coughing, unaendelea na chest compressions. Chest compressions sasa ndio process yote tunaita CPR.
Ile CPR.
So unaendelea na chest compressions, like 30 compressions. Just locate the center of the chest, interlock your fingers, and begin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 29, 30. After 30 compressions, you give 2 breaths.
2 breaths.
So you keep repeating that process.
Typically, for you to do the 30, the CPR, then you come back to the
mouth to mouth, yes.
Yes. How long is this person? How long was Kevo in the water? It's just the same scenario you've described me. You actually were watching them, and the vehicle got into the water, or whatever it is that they were, wherever they were, you saw them get into the water, and it is within a few minutes. It is not something that umepata huyu mtu, like for example, you woke up, you're going to work in the morning, and you find them lying on the road, and you don't know what happened. Typically, because you said now for the few minutes, that's why I really want to pick your mind on, so that even the viewer can understand.
Yes.
I saw, let's say Kevo was there for like 5 minutes, inside and drowning in the water.
Yes, yes.
And then, you're doing the 30 CPRs. So after how long do you unaona hapa hivi I would need to do more.
Yeah. That is why the first thing that I asked you to do is send someone for help. How you're going to get this person to a hospital. Because the moment you recognize that this person has stopped breathing, they'll require a hospital, definitely. Anahitaji kwenda hospitali mahali. Sasa. So, then ukiendelea na hii process, there are 2 scenarios you need to consider. Do you have multiple casualties? Or this is the only casualty? If you have multiple casualties, someone who's not breathing is probably not a big priority for you because you're not very sure about what is going to happen to them. You want to consider the others who are screaming and need help. So you are going to concentrate on those ones first.
On those who are screaming?
Yes, the people who are screaming, ensure that they are safe, wako sorted out.
Right.
And then this person who's not breathing, ndio sasa utakuja kuendelea na yeye. Because if you spend too much time on the person who is unresponsive, not breathing, you are risking much more individuals, much more lives, many more lives there. Because those people require help, and maybe you're the only one who can help, ama mko wawili, you're the only ones who can help. So kwanza consider the people who are responding, who are able to talk, ama they have certain injuries, because injuries do occur even in flooding, bleeding, and such things. First, consider those things.
And get them to safety.
Okay. Treat those injuries. Come and handle this other casualty who is not breathing.
Right, Johi, so a follow-up on what I had asked,
yes.
the time limit. And one thing that a lot of viewers would be asking. So I was passing, around
yes.
kwa barabara, and then I saw Kevo. Let's say, for example, Kevo's in his personal car, and it got submerged. So I am not sure how long Kevo has been in the water.
Yes.
So as an expert, how long is someone going to be drowning until they actually... what's the time limit until they actually pass away?
Now, what we're saying is that as a first aider, you're not allowed to say that someone has died and such things.
Yeah.
You don't like to consider all that.
Okay.
So when you follow...
your first thought is coming to check if he's... Without thinking if he is actually passed away.
Yeah, without thinking about all that.
Yeah.
Get him out of the water. Get him to a dry area. Get ni Jonte ama ni Kevo. Get Jonte into a dry area. Hii mguo yenye amevaa si tumesema it is a danger. Try and remove any wet clothing and keep them dry and keep them warm. That is why that nimeleta mablanketi and
yes.
You cover them with something warm that you can get that is dry. Once you do that and you're doing this CPR, sindio? When it comes to such water incidents, because of the body temperature going very, very low, you are advised to do CPR until the casualty is warm, until they get warm enough. If they are warm and they are still not breathing, that's when now you can say this person is not alive.
So say actually Kevo anafaa kuona Jote anafaa kuona blanketi tumefunika.
Unafaa kumemfunika, umedry, yani umetoa hizi nguo zote.
So tumfunike blanketi moja.
Tunamfunika because kuna kitu inaitwa hypothermia. Wacha tutaongelea hiyo kwanza. Tutaongelea. Wacha tuseme tumemtoa nguo. Tumemtoa nguo wet.
Okay, the wet clothes.
Yes.
If I don't have a blanket karibu.
Anything warm. The point is something that is dry and can keep them warm. That is the point.
Right.
That is, hiyo ndio kitu tunafaa tu kufikiria. Si lazima ikuwe blanketi, uko na jacket, uko na kitu yote tu unaweza mfunika, hata kama ni mtoi, kitu yote tu unaweza mfunika. As long as it is dry and you can try and keep them warm enough to try unajaribu kuleta body temperature ipande. Yeah. What is our normal body temperature?
Inakuga
37 hapo.
Nachezea. Lakini unajua for hot guys like me inaweza kuwa
haiwezi kuwa zaidi ya 38. Sawa. So body temperature unataka ipande because ina improve. Someone when they are warm, it helps to improve the blood circulation and oxygen circulation. So to answer your question, how long you do chest compressions until your casualty is warm. Usually, healthcare professionals wataita do CPR until your casualty is warm and dead.
That's deep. Okay.
Yes, you can't. They probably won't declare this person having died if they're still cold because of the hypothermia and such. Umemtoa kwa maji, lazima warm up, and when they are warm and their heart is still not pumping blood, then then they're no longer with us.
Okay. Right. Still on the whole time duration, a very common question that you'd always pose to you as experts.
Yes.
How long do I need to be in water until I cannot actually breathe?
It doesn't take long, by the way. The moment that you're submerged in water and your mouth and your nose are underwater and you need to breathe in, that is a problem. It depends. For you it is different. It's different for everyone. Unajua kuna watu wenye athletic who are able to stay underwater for a very long time, for a very long period of time. Now for for infants, children and the elderly and the sickly and the frail, for them it is a very short period of time. Hata dakika moja itaisha. If they are if they are submerged underwater, they are not able to breathe.
Okay.
So it varies from person to person,
Right.
and the kind of health they have and how healthy they are, basically. That's what I'm talking about.
Fantastic. Now, Junta amekuwa responsive, for example, umemwekea blanketi for a couple of minutes, he's become responsive.
Yes.
What do you do as a first aider? Show us.
If he's responsive, hii blanketi utatoa.
Okay.
Because you want to maintain warmth.
Right.
Si umeshatoa ile nguo baridi. So once they respond, they've started breathing.
A quick one before you continue. So, for example, I'm not trained. I don't know the exact temperature should be about 37. So how do I actually know that he's actually warm enough?
You just touch the skin.
That's
ni hivyo tu, guza tu hapa. Do you feel any warmth? Okay. If they're still not warm, then just keep them warm.
Right.
So
back to Junte,
once they respond, they've started breathing and such, you're going to place them in the recovery position. Recovery position is just turning them on their side. Vile tu nilikuwa nimefanya. So you're just going to turn them on their side if they're responsive still, and maintain and wait for help and such. Ama more observe. Sasa. We like to encourage people, if someone has been unresponsive because of drowning or whatever liquid or water incident, it is important that they visit a medical facility. Because if this person, kwanza tulianza na they were not breathing, that one definitely needs to go to hospital. Ama you find someone was unresponsive, and they were unresponsive because they were maybe submerged in water for a bit of a few minutes, and sasa sahi uko na they still need to visit a hospital, because kuna kugana aspects something called secondary drowning. Secondary drowning happens when there are inside the lungs kuna inflammations, swell. Kuna swelling huko ndani, and the lungs are unable to take in enough oxygen, so this person develops breathing difficulty. And that's not something you can detect hapa. It needs to get to a hospital where a healthcare professional can actually confirm that.
Right.
It's not something you can gauge from here. Ata akiregain consciousness, you still need to get them to a hospital.
Right.
But always make sure that you maintain warmth. Now, if they start talking, they're able to talk, they're able to answer questions, they're able to even swallow. Give them soup, kama uko na soup. Something warm.
Also
to help maintain and raise their body temperature. Right. So give them soup, give them even tea and such to help elevate and maintain warm body temperature.
Another hypothetical. So, for example, Junte was inside this trapped area, and he was probably hit with a blunt object, maybe on his head, and it had him, lose his consciousness. Is that something that it's not, you can't really maybe see it just by looking at him by face value? Okay. How will you know some of these things?
First of all, when someone is unresponsive, there is not much you can tell without seeing. If you can't see blood or any swellings or anything, then you can't really tell if they have internal injuries. But from your question, if someone was hit on the head, what you want to feel their head. When you feel your head, hebu jaribu kuguza kichwa yako. Inakuwa, is it firm or is it soft?
Sitaki kusema niko na kichwa ngumu.
Uko na kichwa ngumu. So, it is firm, kawaida, naturally, sindio? But when you're doing maybe what we call a secondary assessment of your casualty, and you feel the head and you feel a soft spot, if you feel a soft spot that is not meant to be there, then you need to correct that. Maybe that is an indicator that they may be having a head injury. And when it comes to a head injury, if they're unresponsive, the point is just to turn them on their side, something called the recovery position. Okay. Just turn them on their side as long as they keep breathing.
Right. So I'm being told, as you come to a call, but then you can always call us live 0795 045864 in case you have quite some burning questions on this. But when you're drowning, you've probably seen someone drowning and you're wondering, what could I have done in this kind of situation and all that. Or rather, we in Kenya right now, there are all incidences of flash floods and all that. So what do you do to be safe. Call us live right now, 0795-045864, and Wanjohi will be answering your questions. So tukiendelea right now, Jonte ako responsive and all that. Yeah. But let's say Jonte is actually a trained swimmer. Okay. So hata akikuwa submerged pale ndani ya maji, let's say to zama tatu and all that, he was able to get out of this and try to swim. Yes. What instances would make Jonte, despite him being a very well-trained swimmer, to actually drown?
Most obviously, inakuwaga injury. If he was in the water and got an injury, something ilimkata or something and caused him to start bleeding while in the water, that could contribute to drowning. Again, even if you're a strong swimmer, you can still inhale water. If you inhale too much water, you will lose your ability to swim. Again, in this kind of scenario where we have moving water, even if you're the strongest swimmer there, the moving water is a very big problem for you. So when you're trying to swim against current and such, there's exhaustion will get in. Yeah. And once exhaustion ikupate, you won't be able to swim to a safe environment. Right. And that's why we try to ensure that and encourage people that even if you're the strongest swimmer that there is, you spent your life maybe fishing or such things. Yeah. If it is in an environment that you're not used to, or if the water is more than what you're used to, you'd rather not get in. If you're able to avoid it, there's something we call the drowning chain of survival. The drowning chain of survival begins from a process of prevention. The first step in the chain is to prevent. Be careful in and around water.
Is it the fact that people panic immediately? They're in a lot of water, they don't know how to swim?
Yes.
One very good example is me. I'm a very pathetic swimmer. I don't know how to swim. The first instance is to panic.
Yes.
What are the kind of disadvantages will panicking bring about when it comes to you in a lot of water? It's actually neck deep.
If you're not relaxed, because panicking causes a lot of tension. Yeah. Your muscles are tense and such. If you're not relaxed, you will sink faster. That's now the thing. Someone who is relaxed, you don't know how to swim.
Message.
Mtu mwenye anajua kuswim anakuwaga relaxed in water. Hata sali anataka kufloat. Utaona there is nothing that they are doing. They are completely relaxed. So and their body is able to float very easily on water.
I've never understood that advice. And it always sounds sort of good to advise someone in the swimming pool because it's secure and all that. Yeah. But then now, I mean, we've seen areas around Mathare, around Mukuru kwa Ruben and all that. Yeah. People, the houses are submerged in water, and this person hasn't yet drowned, but then they're really trying to swim and all that, maybe to rescue someone, maybe if it's a child or someone vulnerable, or just to actually take out their belongings. Yes. What will you tell this person in such a scenario?
I'll just repeat whatever we started by saying is ensure that wewe, as an individual if you're trying to rescue someone, ensure that you are safe. Yourself, you are safe. You're able to see where you're going, and you're able to see where you're coming from. And it's always a good idea to try and map out various exit points and exit routes so that you can have options. And once you decide that you're going to get someone from a victim from water, for example, kama ni mtoto mdogo and such, najua when it comes to children, it's very difficult to tell someone to relax.
Oh yes, I mean now the fact that we've had Jonte here, you can also show us an example of baby Baby Maria, for example.
Yes.
She's probably, let's say, 2 years old, and she's also, in the whole panic mode. She's really trying to, float and swim, but then she can't really do that, and she's in the process of drowning, and you're looking at her. What do you do in this case?
Now, for children of such an age, below 2 years and such, infants, you just get them.
Okay.
It's important that you lift them up, support the head and neck. Now unamshikilia on the side and go to where you're going.
Okay.
Sasa, go to where you're going. Make sure that they're always on the side and they're able to breathe. In case they inhaled any water, it's able to drain out.
What if you're also in the water? She was in the water as well, and you're also in that water, and you're also trying to swim to a safer and higher ground.
Again, ni kumshikilia tu.
Mshika tu, as you also try to swim that.
Just keep it as simple as possible. Okay. Usijaribu vitu mingi. Able to swim, mshikilia na mkono moja and try and get yourself to higher ground or safer ground. Pole pole. Peleka tu pole pole, one step at a time. If you're familiar with the terrain, you know, nikikanyaga hapa, kuna shimo. Nikikanyaga pale, maybe inaweza kuwa it's a bit too deep.
Oh, yes.
If you're able to grab maybe even a broom or a stick, mali unakanyaga, you test how deep it is. Do that. Step, unapima, alafu unakanyaga unaenda. Kama umemshikilia. So, the priority is always first get to safety, and then now deal with the injuries or any medical conditions that they may be having.
Right.
So, right. Safety, priority.
Right. So you're also telling us the kind of tips that if you probably... do you have a caller? James kutoka Vihiga. James, habari asubuhi?
Yes.
Yes, habari asubuhi. Hali ya Vihiga iko aje? Kuna floods huko ama...
Sisi tunashukuru Mungu hatuna floods.
Uko na maswali ya drowning ama maoni?
Maoni tu.
Tuongeleshe.
Sasa.
Yes, endelea.
Maoni.
Alafu
huyu anafanya kazi mzuri, wacha aendelee hivyo.
Oh, sawa. Aya. Remember, when you're calling us live, switch off your TV. Si lazima ujisikie, or rather mute your TV or punguza volume and tell us where you're calling us from, and be as audible as possible. Joe, he will be answering your questions live, and the kind of questions that they may really have. Anasema unafanya kazi mzuri, endelea.
Shukran.
Yes. So back to the whole tips that you're giving us. These are things that we've seen on different kind of social media platforms. Someone was recording and, in different parts, either in Nairobi, Mukushuka, Ruben, Mathare, or even in Garissa. Yesterday, there was a whole boat, that submerged, and capsized in water. Over 20 people plus, drowned. There were people who are watching. They're actually sort of a foot far away from them. And so your expert advice to what, if you actually own that boat, what do you do? First off, you've told us, number one, panicking will really have you sink faster.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, you're talking about if I was on that boat.
Yeah.
If I was on that boat, I'd first try to save myself.
Okay.
And if I'm able to, mimi naweza swim si kama wewe.
But so what will I do as someone who can't actually swim, and I'm seeing there's a lot of water, there's a lot, running currents mbele yangu and all that?
Again, we know with flowing water in a river and such, there's really not much you can do.
Yeah.
You can't control, there are certain things that are beyond your control. If you're able to keep your head above water and maybe flow with the current to a safer area, go ahead and do that. If you try to swim against the current, again, you're saying someone is unable to swim. If you try to swim against the current, you will meet problems again. So just try and see where the water is taking you, and try as much as possible to get to the sides of where you can see dry land. Try and, as much as possible, the nearest point there to get there. Again, this is nature. I can't really fight nature. So if the water is flowing, see where is it going. Am I able to get to a drier location, or a location where I'm able to even keep my head above the water? Because the point is to keep your head above the water so that you can keep breathing. That is your priority.
Right.
Are you able to keep your head above the water so that you can keep breathing?
Right.
But if your nose and mouth are submerged, then we have a big problem.
There's something called defensive swimming. Does it also apply in all this kind of situation? How far can defensive swimming really help? You can also tell us about what defensive swimming applies to and what it actually means.
When it comes to defensive swimming, that's mostly a term that is used by professional swimmers and lifeguards and such.
Okay.
When they're talking about defensive swimming is maybe when they're going to rescue someone.
Right.
And if they're going to rescue someone and they find that this person is still conscious and they're still, wanagonga maji, there's a very high possibility that that person is going to also make you drown and pull you down with them. So someone who is like a defensive swimmer would probably go deeper where this person doesn't want to go and go somewhere where they'll go away from this person until this person starts to relax. And then they can approach them. They can approach them from a point where they cannot, the person who is drowning, they cannot see them, maybe from their back, and now can be able to pull them out. So the defensive swimming applies to you, the rescuer. Wewe mwenye una rescue, unaona mtu ana drown, and you can't directly go with them because unaona mtu kama mimi na drown na wewe unakuja kunichukua and I'm unable to swim. I will definitely nitakushikilia kwa shingo. Na mimi nikikushikilia kwa shingo, na mimi nikushikilia kwa shingo mimi natoshana aje. Si tutazama tu sisi wote. So for that wewe itabidi sasa uni approach in a way that I am unable to see you. Ama if I do see you, you go to somewhere where I am afraid to go, which is usually just inside the water.
All right.
So that now you can come and get me out of the water safely without causing harm to yourself.
Do you think these are basic techniques, that the whole defensive kind of swimming, that if someone is living in some of these areas that are quite prone to flooding, that they should really learn?
Not just someone who's living in an area that is prone to flooding. Swimming is a basic, it's a skill that we should all have. Ni important to jua kuswim because unaona kama sahi the flooding has affected areas that were never affected by flooding before. Sindio? Someone who never knew that this would happen to them. Sindio? But if you had basic knowledge of or basic skill in terms of getting yourself to safety by swimming to a safer location, that could assist. So swimming is an important skill. The way we are promoting first aid as an important skill, and other skills that we promote. It is important for you to, as a person living, vile unasema, as a person living in a flood-prone area, uko unajua kuswim. Kama even if you're not in a flood-prone area, important.
Ujua kuswim. Right. So again, still on the whole kind of tips you're giving us on matters, the first aid ya kupatia mtu amedrown.
Yes.
Does a defibrillator come into play on all this?
Yes. Unfortunately, maybe in Kenya, a defibrillator is not very common in a mwananchi kind of setting.
Okay.
It is mostly common by healthcare professionals. Okay. But if you do have access to a defibrillator, as a first aider, there's something we call an automated external defibrillator. There are institutions that have them. In Kenya, mostly maybe hotels and areas where they deal with high flow of individuals and such, airports and such. So a defibrillator comes in the process of CPR, where when I was
is it an alternative of CPR?
It is not an alternative of CPR. Okay. It is something that is used together with CPR. It is what is the opposite of alternative? It is used together with chest compressions and mouth ventilation. Concurrently, yes. It is an AED helps to support CPR in terms of improving the chances of survival. I talked about the chain of survival. There's a chain of survival for drowning and there's a chain of survival for CPR. The defibrillator comes in to improve the chances of survival for someone who is not breathing. Because the first thing in the chain of survival for CPR or for a casualty who's not breathing is to call for help immediately. You recognize the person who's not breathing. That's the first step. The next step is to start CPR immediately. Chest compressions and mouth ventilations. Begin that immediately. And then now the third step is the defibrillator comes in. Now a defibrillator, maybe I should tell the folks what a defibrillator does. Because maybe tumewauliza tunaongelea defibrillator na watu wajui ni nini, si ndio? A defibrillator is a machine that helps to restore normal heartbeat. Ni kama maybe vile umezoea gari yako battery imechapa na unataka kujumpstart. Something of the sort. So a defibrillator uses electric current to try and restore normal heartbeat, or try to stop abnormal heartbeat. Basically, that is what the defibrillator does, using electric current. So if you have an AED or an automated external defibrillator, use it. It's the third link in the chain of survival. And then, of course, advanced medical care comes in the what we call the cardiac chain of survival. So that's where the AED comes in. It is not an alternative to CPR. In this whole process, the chest compressions are the most important. Yes.
You said 30 of them.
30 to 30. Yani you keep alternating. You don't just stop at 30. You keep alternating. 30 chest compressions, 2 mouth ventilations. 30 compressions, 2 ventilations. You keep doing that until either help arrives or the casualty starts to breathe on their own. Or you're even too exhausted to continue. Ukifanya chest compressions for too long without help or without passing the casualty to someone else, it will get to a point where you're too exhausted to continue.
Right. Back to Jonte, before we had the whole blanket on top of him. Is it standard to have a full check on his body? Because, I mean, sorry. So Jonte was submerged in water that was, let's say, 3 feet or even 4 feet above him. Alikuwa to connect, or rather he was actually fully submerged. And inside water, there's just a lot that happens. You had earlier mentioned about injuries that might happen, that you might probably see or may not see. But then, all right, I'm being told we should be crossing all the way to Mahimahi, where correspondent Willie Dennis Njiru is. Willie, a very good morning to you, and not so good morning to the folks living around there. Give us the latest updates so far in that region.
Good morning, and indeed not so good morning for the locals of Mahimahi and Nakuru County at large, as we have been bringing to our viewers subsequent developments around here. It is not officially confirmed, but more than 20 bodies have been so far retrieved. Actually, the ambulance you hear behind me, there is some places just to my right side below where the storm waters just were flowing through, where actually most of these bodies have been retrieved. And the police vehicle that is here is going for bodies up to capacity of 8 and then bringing them. And you remember, still these bodies, we still have people who are taking care and managing them. But as you can see, I have 3 of those people who survived the incident, and I could ask them to kindly join us. Misongeni tu karibu hapa, and maybe we could hear from them what they have to tell us. Songa bele kidogo. Pole kwa mkasa. Nieleze jina lako na utueleze ilikuwaje. Angalia pale.
Naitwa William Lokai, na ilikuwa mwendo wa saa 9 hivi. Tumesikia maji kibomoa ukuta. Kujaribu kutoka maji ikatusukumia ndani ya nyumba. Sasa maji ikajaa ndani ya nyumba. Ilikuwa inatuzungusha hivi. Sasa tulikuwa na mandugu zangu, jana tu ndio wamekuja. Sasa wakapatana hiyo mkasa leo usiku. Sasa watoto tulikuwa tunawainua hivi, tukabomoa juu ya nyumba, tukawapitisha watoto huko na mama yao, tukapita sisi wote. Sasa wakati tumetokea huko tukakuta nyumba upande mmoja imebomolewa na watu wa hiyo room wameenda wote mpaka hii room nyingine tena. Sasa lakini mwenye alikuwa ameenda, kuna mmoja nilimuona. Lakini anasema ndugu yake alipotea. Muone ndugu yake.
Kuna wengine umepoteza isipokuwa hawa?
Kwa nyumba yangu hakuna, wote wako. Kuna watoto 4 na mke, na huyu ni ndugu yangu, ni kasini yangu. Lakini tulisaidiana hawa kuwapitisha juu ya nyumba. Tulibomoa mabati, ndipo mabati ikanikata hapa hii kidole.
Wacha tusikie kutoka kwako. Karibia kidogo, nieleze jina lako na utueleze ilikuwaje. Nakushikia.
Naitwa Moses Loboshe. Kulikuwa tu na hiyo maneno yenye ilitokea jana. Hivyo venye sisi jana tulitoka kazi tukakuja kumtembelea kazini yangu. Sasa kufika usiku tukasikia tu pa mvua. Ile kujaribu kushungulia kwa mlango hivyo, nikaenda kushika mtoto. Venye nimechukua mtoto kumweka kwa mkono, maji kanipiga ikanifinyia kiti. Sasa ndo nikageuza mtoto akaingia room nyingine. Viti zikanifinya, nikajingangana, nikajitoa kwa hiyo viti. Tukangangana tukakaa hapo, ndo tukapata nafasi huko kazini yangu akabomoa mabati, ndo tukapitisha watoto tukatoka. Ilikuwa hivyo. Yeah.
Pole sana. Ndugu, nieleze akaunti yako ilikuwa vipi? Pole kwa mkasa.
Mimi naitwa John Lokai. Jana tumekuja hapa kwa ndugu yangu usiku. Tumekuja jioni wakati tumelala usiku wa saa 9. Tukasikia maji imekuja kujaribu kushungulia hivi, maji imeshagonga kwa jirani, imebomoa. Majirani wamepiga nduru hata hatuwaoni mali wako. Kisha maji ikaanza kuingia kwa nyumba yetu. Ikajaa kwa nyumba, ikatusukuma, ikatuinua juu mpaka tukapita juu ya mabati. Hapo ndipo sasa tulipata kuokolewa na hiyo nyumba. Ni hayo tu.
Unalifahamu eneo hili? Kulinyesha sana jana usiku kabla ya tukio ama ilikuwa vipi?
Kulinyesha mvua lakini ilikuwa nzito sana. Lakini sijui maji ilitoka wapi. Yeah. Yeah.
Asante sana. Stanley, if my camera person could just span around, we have so many families around here, as you can see, who are not actually up to full with information of whereabouts of their relatives. And as you can see, they are just here skeptical of the situation, and perhaps they are optimistic that there could be some hope of whereabouts of their kin, because for those who have not found their kin, have had their way here to try and see maybe if they have been brought here or have been transferred elsewhere. As we have said there before, we have the information, which is not actually formal. Over 20 bodies have been retrieved, and the facilities here are actually quite to brim, and some of these bodies have had to be moved 34 kilometers to Naivasha, and just some other referrals are happening up above here where we have the Kijabe Hospital. And remember, that route to Kijabe is impassable because days ago, the bridge that connects Maimahio through to Kijabe, through to the upper A104 road on the upper side, is totally impassable as it was cut. Speaking with in anonymity to one of the staff here, he told us we have had 61 patients being brought here, casualties for that matter, who have actually been taken ill, with 17 with critical injuries and have had to be referred to other facilities across the region, being Naivasha, Kijabe, for further medical checkups. As we are continuing on this bulletin, young locals here, youth, have had to take up the challenge to assist the other government agencies to retrieve the bodies. And as I have said to our viewers, that on the lower side of where exactly we are is where most of these bodies are being retrieved. And if my camera person could again just pan before I take it back to you, Stanley, on the upper side, nonetheless, it's quite sunny and we could have some rays. On that side is exactly where we had so much storm water bursting and causing this similar replica of a scenario as we witnessed at Solai Dam, where water just smashed to homesteads. As at now, we do not actually have the exact number of homesteads that have been destroyed. We do not have exact numbers of casualties of those who have lost life. These are statistics that we are continuing to govern and collect. And remember, this place has very much of loose soil, and having so much of loose soil around this place, it has covered so many structures, so many things, so many households, and it is presumed that maybe some could have lost their lives and their bodies are just buried beneath the soil. So it is going to be an activity maybe that is going to take a few days to try and bring things to book, and maybe it is not going to be possible for any official information as at this time, or maybe today, of exactly what the situation is as at now here in Mahio in Naivasha, Nakuru County. Stanley, before I take it back to you, perhaps you could be having a question you could...
Most definitely, Willie. Before I let you go, there is an ongoing doctor strike, and you've told us that those injured have been taken to that particular hospital. What is the situation in this place? I mean, you're having a huge number of people who are injured, and yet the doctors are still on strike.
Absolutely a very, very good question, and I must laud the medical fraternity around this place, because no one can actually tell if there is a doctor's strike. They have gone out. They are on to task. They are doing what they have to do best to save life and actually to take care of the locals here. They are up and about ensuring that all who need medical attention, they are doing that. But we also have CHVs who are also assisting in this besides the community that is around here. And actually we must laud the effort that they have gone out of their way and out of their clarion call and quest for the government to aid to what they have to say. But they are here as and of when duty calls them to ensure that they manage the situation as it is, which is laudable. We laud their effort for doing this. Stanley?
Right, thank you. Thank you, Willie Dennis Njiru, for all those updates. More updates will be coming your way in our subsequent bulletins at 10 as well as 11 a.m. as well as 1 p.m. on that. Thank you very much. Willie Dennis Njiru will be getting back to you for more details, just to see what the police say, how the numbers will be changing of those who have been injured, as well as the number of those who have lost their lives. And I mean, the whole conversation is the same that you're having right here on the first aid. And well, before Willie Dennis, we had talked to Willie Dennis Njiru, just talking about how this whole flash floods and what you really need to know. And a huge, important detail to actually know what has been reflected on that. There's a whole issue we're talking about now, water, what to really expect on what, even swimming in water. But then there's a whole new angle of mud, the kind of loose soil that can actually be around this particular place. You can be a very good swimmer, but then this is loose soil you're talking about. Tell us more about that.
Okay, when it comes to things like mud and such, there's the aspect of beyond the inhalation of water, you can also inhale soil, which is now in mud. So,
and it's solid particles as well.
Yes, those are solid particles. Yeah. So with that, you need to manage that person, because they'll be choking, and by when they're choking, I don't know if we've discussed choking before, but
oh yes,
how you
but you can definitely give us the tips.
How you handle choking is, first of all, you start by hitting their back, if you're able to. Unamgonga tu kwa mgongo mara 5. If that doesn't work, unajaribu kufinya tumbo mara kama 5. If they have inhaled any solid substances. Does
the rescue also, because earlier you're telling us that you're probably the two of you and you're trying to rescue someone in water, but then this is loose soil.
Yeah.
And even in the mud, I mean, it can really get sticky. Even trying to rescue this person, just pulling them out would really escalate to the both of you who are rescuing this person also getting submerged. As we wind up and as you give us your final thoughts.
Again, the process is the same. Try and get yourself to a safe location. Tulisema tunaanza na kijiti. You try and throw a rope. A rope is better because it's longer. Try and pull them out. Once you pull them out, get them to a safer location. See if they're breathing. If they're not breathing, do whatever it is that we just did. But if they're breathing, you look for injuries. Before we went to my Mahio, you were talking about looking for other injuries that they have. Yes. And there's one of the victims there who has just said that alikatwa mpaka na mabati.
Oh yeah,
si ndio? With that, unajua need to find what those injuries are. And you find such a victim who has amekatwa na mabati and they are bleeding, you need to control the bleeding by just applying direct pressure. Unafunga tu na kitambaa ama kitu yoyote. Funga and then get to the next person. So don't just manage the breathing bit. You also need to look for other injuries that may have. Once you sort out the breathing aspect, look for other injuries that they may have affected them. And once you do that, now kuna sasa post-drowning care.
Okay. Right. Wanjohi, someone has listened to you the whole hour. They've loved your tips. But then how can they really reach out to St. John Ambulance? Provide us the number so that as we wrap it up.
Yes. Our emergency contact number is 0721 225 285.
Okay.
0721 225 285. You can also reach us on our social media accounts, X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, at St. John Kenya.
At St. John Kenya.
At
Asante
St.
sana.
John Kenya.
Asante sana, Andrew Wanjohi, first aid trainer at St. John Ambulance, for all these tips that you've given us. And more, this conversation continues on our digital platforms. What have you really learned today? What is the experience that you have garnered out there when it comes to matters drowning? This has been Morning Cafe. I'm yours truly, Stanley Nyaringita. There's the breaking news just running below your screens. We'll be giving you that and more details as they unfold. Willie Dennis Njero is in Mahiu, Kule Naivasha. Stick around for that. On behalf of Fred Indemoli and the whole team right here, asante sana for sticking around. Goodbye for now.